I think it was rightly summarized as in today's times, we need to work on strategies. I think I like that word, strategies, or how can we give ourselves the opportunity to look into global frontiers and look at global opportunities. Just before I get into it, I can see we have about 26 participants on the call so far. And if you can react and share with me, how many of you feel that an internship is a valuable stepping stone into any organization or any role? I'm happy to just see thumbs ups or reactions on the chat. Yep, there I can see a thumbs up from Kay, Emmanuel. Thank you so much, a lot of you. And I'm going to ask another follow-up question, right? So we are all on the same page in terms of internships being a great way and stepping stone into any role or any company. And on top of that now, let's a follow-up question. How many of you feel that potentially an international internship is the best world for stepping into a global opportunity because you get a time-bound limited experience, so you're not fully committed to it, but yet you get the flavor of what working internationally or international companies looks like? And I can see many thumbs ups going there as well. So at this juncture, I'm going to share my screen because effectively, let me know when you can see my presentation. And so here we are, right? So this is just some of the points that are in the market in terms of general macro surveys and the value of internships. And I think Now was very kind enough to give the credit to me, and I'd be foolish to take the credit for myself, but I would rather put it to the organization that we're a part of. I work for a company called Capital Placement, and we've been working closely with the Center for Business Analysis because primarily the story of Capital Placement goes back to two young co-founders in their university days struggling to get an internship. And through very many ways of figuring out and reaching out to tens, maybe even hundreds of employers and figuring out to get an internship for themselves, since they didn't get a lot of support from their careers team at the university, that's when they saw, why not help this to friends and family. And after helping friends and family, they thought, okay, why not take this opportunity to help other people as well, because word spread amongst their peers as to what was the thing that you did to get an opportunity in this internship and in this company. And they really had a long playbook of doing what they were doing, and helping one person after the other was the birth of the company that I'm working for. It's called Capital Placement. And essentially, what we are, and today, funny enough, the coincidence is beautiful that we're celebrating 13 years of the company. It's our company anniversary today, but we're one of the biggest and highest rated internship providers in the industry. Now, what that means is that everybody has heard of HR providers and HR placement agencies, but not a lot of them really look into the avenue of internships, simply because working to place somebody in a full-time job is a different market compared to working with university students or anybody wanting that internship, which is usually left to the prerogative of careers teams in universities. And with the multiple students and programs that they have and the small careers team, there's always a gap in how to bridge this. Yes, over the past couple of years, we do have things like LinkedIn and you can click and apply. However, we are seeing that the ease of applying is creating another barrier, which is that we get hundreds of clicks. I remember the other day speaking to an entrepreneur. He says we posted one job and they received, and I know the number, 1,049 applications for it. So the click has made it easier, but also creates a lot of bulk. So how do we then bridge this gap? Because trust you me, there are enough number of companies out there looking for temporary talent, looking for interns, because for them too, it's an amazing way to test talent for potential longer term opportunities rather than hiring them full time. In the first instant, it's almost like a work trial. And on the other hand, you have all of these candidates who are looking to hire and get hired into these companies, even for internships. So we do have both sides of the bridge is just the middle connecting piece, which is sometimes missing and nobody's really looking at, and only assumes that technology like LinkedIn or Google, now maybe ChatGPT, in terms of figuring out CVs and everything, is going to work into it. But really, this bridge is what we've been doing for the last 13 years. And if I go ahead, we've been recognized as UK's #1 international internship provider by Go Overseas, a very leading forum, and tool for looking at overseas opportunities. And we've been constantly recognized for what we do. Our Trustpilot reviews says about us. Here's a review about a candidate. And now you must be all wondering, okay, we're reading all of this. Exactly what is it that Capital Placement offers, and what are these internships? And it's effectively what we do is we have 3 types of internship programs. And when we work with candidates, we will first work with everyone on a selective and personalized basis. We will look for international work opportunities. Currently, we're working in London as well as Singapore. We did do New York. However, on this year, we've put New York programs on a pause, but we're doing remote traineeships and internships as well, where you can sit at home and work for companies across the world. We do not do remote internships where you're sitting at home and there's another Ghanaian company that we're going to place you in. No, the company will be probably European or East Asian in terms of markets like Singapore, or Middle East in Dubai, or North American. So it is a cross-border employment or internship, even if it is in a remote capacity. The last point I'll come to is we work on something of a guaranteed placement. So remember the story that I told you about the 2 co-founders. One of the things they realize, and we've been true to it, is that we work on a very unique way of a guaranteed placement, which means effectively that in the 8 or 10 weeks that we discuss with any candidate about finding them their internship, if we are unable to place or find the internship in that period, whatever deposit or whatever fees you've paid us up to that point of time is fully refunded to you. And I mean it. You can quote me, you can record me, you can, I'm witness with all of these people. If we're unable to give you the guaranteed outcome, we refund everything back, because it comes back from that holistic purpose of, okay, let's be that bridge to help candidates find the opportunity. Like I mentioned to you, therefore, we have programs in London, Singapore, and then in remote and remote starter. And I'm going to go into a couple of the details of this. But right at this point, I have done these presentations enough number of times, and we always get a question of, okay, this sounds great, but why do I have to pay for these services, and why can I not get this on our own, and how does it work? Are the companies getting paid? What is happening? So I'll be transparent as much as we are. You can look at us on our website, and we always discuss this with with Na and the entire team at Center for Business Analysis. And that's why they brought us on board, is that what we are charging for effectively is putting eyes, hands, brains in your team. So think of it like an additional set of power boosted team members specifically working to do what you are unable to do on your own in your given point of time. We do not pay or have any contractual obligations with the companies. We do the introductions, we present you to the companies, we find the appropriate opportunities, and thereon, the internship contract or everything that happens is directly between the candidate and the company. We do not feature in that contract at all, in the sense that there is enough transparency and accountability that there is no linkage between us and the company in terms of monetary transactions or anything happening. It is completely something where we've introduced the candidates and we take the step back. What we're essentially taking the payment for is our time and our efforts to work with you on the team. And I'll jump into the processes and what our programs look like. So as a broad overview, I'm going to go into the in-person programs that we have in London and Singapore. And what do you really get? Well, it's not a question where you drop in a CV and that's it, we're going to find you an internship. But like I said, it's a very selective and personalized way that we work. where we will speak to you, understand your requirements, and sometimes if we are unable to place you in an industry that we believe may not be something that we have opportunities in, we'd be upfront about it, because we don't want to waste anyone's time. And the last thing we want to do is we don't want to give anybody any false hope. So for example, if we have somebody who's working in a very niche industry, or requires a niche internship, let me take an example. They want something to do with genetic engineering, and do you have any internship opportunities in any labs working on genetic engineering or study of genes? And if we do not have that in our network, we'd be very upfront to say this is not something that we can work. So we handhold and work with you from the step go, and that's why I mentioned it's the mentorship aspect. We have certain careers we can choose from. We have hands-on experience that we work with. We have the career coaching where, okay, your CV has been now picked up by a couple of companies and you're going to an interview. We don't take a step back, but we'll work with you to prepare you for that interview. Let's say for whatever reason the interview doesn't go well, we'll do those debriefs so that you're prepared better for the next interview. Let's say everything goes to plan and now you need to make your paperwork for coming here. Yes, we do offer visa assistance as well as visa sponsorship, so you don't need to work about, okay, what do I need to fill, how do I need to fill, what do I need to do in my paperwork. Okay, that's taken care of. Then you may have a question of, okay, I'm going to come to London, I'm going to go to Singapore, where am I going to stay? Are there any recommended places? Can you arrange for accommodation? Now, we don't push for any of these services because that's not something we're in the business of. However, based on previous requests from candidates, we do offer assistance in terms of giving you recommended choices or anything that we can offer from our side to make your internship easier. Eventually, like I mentioned, it's a guaranteed internship, which means if you do not get an internship, there is nothing that's come out of your pocket. And lastly, it's a flexible schedule, which means, yes, whilst we have summer cohorts, which is when most of the companies are looking for internships globally, however, we work around the year and can work with you on a flexible schedule based on your initial conversations. If somebody requires to start in January, based on our assessment, we could come back and say January is workable, let us work on that. Or we may look internally and come back and say, maybe give us a couple of weeks and it'll February be a better time for you to start. But we are not locked in for only opening opportunities in the month of June or July when the summer comes along. So that's more or less how we work. Yes, the professional network and peer interactions go with it. And jumping into the industries, like I mentioned, these are all the industries that we work with. We have opportunities in certain industries for regulatory reasons, or something that requires licenses, or something that has a little bit of more restrictions, like the medical industry, hospitality, or cybersecurity. Those are some things we usually do not cater to, but everything else, and pretty much broadly in business or marketing, they are covered. Like I mentioned in the start, there are a lot of companies that are looking for interns and maybe don't feature right up there because it's the Fortune 500 companies that always get the attention. So we're always screening and scanning our network for finding top working startups or SMEs that have a good working environment. One of the questions that we always also ask is, what kind of work will I get? And this is a question we also check in with the companies to say, what is the internship that you're trying to do? Because we don't want somebody to come on board and just do administrative work. So we try and understand what is the internship or what is the scope that they are looking for to be done from candidates. And only then would we feel, okay, it's a good fit, and maybe make that introduction. So rest be assured that we are not again in the business of, and I know I'm repeating these things because these are apprehensions, open questions often from students. We hear time and again about what will be the kind of work will I do? Will I just be relegated to sitting and doing basic Excel sheets or basic work? And we try to go back and have these conversations with the companies even before placing an intern with them to understand how their internship would be structured, what is their team size, what is the project that they're trying to involve you on. So those are the elements that we try and fit from our side when we're making those matches and presenting the opportunities to you. We have the pricing here, and I'll come to the pricing right at the end as well. But overall, for our in-person internship, effectively, these are the pricing that we have in front of us. Another follow-up question sometimes we get is, why is it that I need to pay the same for a 6 weeks or 3 months or a 6 months internship? Frankly, because the time and effort that goes from our team to place somebody, whether it's 6 weeks or for 3 months, is effectively the same. We are the same number of people who are sitting and working and really, really trying to, find the opportune moment for placing you in a company. However, like I said, there is no vested interest on us in terms of pushing you for any of these decisions of whether you are interested in an 8 week or 3 month internship usually come from you. And then if you say, or any candidate says that this is what I'm looking for and I want this, we will work towards that. These are just some of the eligibility criteria for the London program, and I'm just going to skim over just a few things, and you can Google these as well. The visa for internships is called the Government Authorized Exchange Tier 5 visa. Effectively, you need to be a recent graduate or have graduated in the last 36 months. It doesn't matter from where, so long as you're not holding a UK or Northern Ireland passport holder and you have the others, check boxes in terms of the funds for your internship and stay in English language, and you've graduated either bachelor's or master's now or in the last 36 months, you're eligible for this visa. I'm jumping to Singapore, almost similar, very, very rarely any difference. But the biggest difference that comes down to Singapore is just in terms of the visa, where the Singapore government only sort of has an arrangement where it requires students who have studied in universities in 10 countries. So I know that majority of you, if you've studied in Ghana itself, may not be eligible for this, but it is a program that we offer, and it's something that's there in case any of you have studied in the US or the UK or anywhere in Europe like France or Germany or Netherlands or Switzerland, you could also be eligible for the Singapore visa. These are the key differences which I can refer to if anybody has any questions on the differences. Inclusions I've already covered. Exclusions as well, which is basically the flight tickets, the visa application or fast track charges, personal expenses on the trip, or your personal contents insurance is not covered. You don't need to keep this by heart with you. When you have your introduction calls with us, we're happy to go over all of these details any which ways. But that sort of brings us to jumping into, okay, the logical question, I don't want to maybe travel, or I have visa restrictions, yet I do want to work in a British company or a European company, and I have a great profile and I want to try how it is in this environment. And that's really where our remote internship program kicks in. I think we're all in agreement that remote working has become more of a norm. Yes, there are companies pushing for, back to work and back to offices, but remote elements and hybrid elements are becoming more and more normative, specifically in certain industries like tech or anything to do with, where you are not personally required to have a lot of face time with clients. There is where remote working is actually getting a better traction. And so we have the remote internship program for it. The biggest advantage, you don't have the visa restrictions. So long as you're a full-time student or you've completed it, you can get into inquiring for it. Obviously a larger pool of industries, as you can see, for simple reason that there is that much more spread of opportunities or employers that we can reach out to. These opportunities, I'm going to come to a point of, are they paid or unpaid? Well, most of the opportunities for a period of more than 3 months will end up being a paid internship. If it is less than 3 months, in all likelihood, it classifies as an internship or like a summer internship, which is usually voluntary or unpaid. We have seen instances in the past where even a shorter than 3 month internship, 8 weeks or 12 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe not, but 8 weeks has been paid a certain stipend by the employers. However, when we're sourcing internships, anything more than 3 months, we will look for paid opportunities because it will not be a great experience for somebody to work for 4 or 5 months without, any sort of compensation from the company. Last question always comes to us is, okay, I've recently graduated from university, or I have very limited work experience. And I don't know how many of you have seen this meme or joke come about in the last couple of weeks and months about AI engineers. And the requirement is we want people who work as AI engineers for the last 5 years or 10 years work experience, which kind of feels funny because we've only had generative AI for the last 1.5 or 2 years. So how can you require somebody with 5 or 10 years of experience? But jokes aside, what we noticed is, yes, there is a propensity of sometimes employers wanting somebody with a prior work experience. And it's a little bit of a chicken and egg, right? Because you may say, hey, I need to start somewhere to get that experience and only then go on. But if you keep saying I need some experience to even make the first step, how is it going to work? So we have a remote starter program that we've launched this year. Effectively, this is capped at looking for, I'm going to just compare, this is strictly looking for 6, 8, and 12-week internships. These are usually voluntary positions. So when we studied the market and we saw, okay, when we drew a line and we saw that, okay, certain employers are looking for remote internship candidates, slightly more experienced, slightly longer term. There are certain companies maybe are looking for a shorter term, but maybe have voluntary positions and don't mind people coming in and working there and then sort of, seeing how it goes on. And we sort of drew the line and tried to see, okay, where is the best fit possible? Because there might be somebody who's just graduated or has limited experience or is pivoting and doesn't have the right experience for that industry. Maybe they're a better fit for these companies looking for the shorter term candidates, but for a voluntary basis versus somebody looking for a slightly more experienced candidate. And that's effectively where both those programs come in. Now, the biggest difference, like I said, in terms of the visa aspect as well as overall is the pricing, where since you're not traveling and the costs for sponsorship and all of those logistical costs get out of the out of the picture, those fees completely and comparatively come down for the team. So, effectively in the 3 buckets that we have, an in-person program, that we have the remote programs, or we have the remote starter programs. I'm going to go back to what we said initially, is that we effectively are the bridge between any potential candidate and a company that is looking for having interns. We've had a successful history in the last 13 years of doing this. We work directly with candidates, we work with institutions, and many times universities as well reach out to us because it is a struggle. In one of the years you may be able to place all your students and have them have internships, and then the cycle starts all over again in the next year. It's an unending cycle, so to say, for universities and their placement teams. So therefore, it is our bread and butter that we work towards building that bridge. And you don't have to take my word for it. Before we go into the Q&A, we're doing fantastic on time because I'm almost done with my presentation and we can have Q&A, but I'd like to invite Alexis as well into sharing her views. Alexis is a fellow alum of our programs. She is a fellow Ghanaian as well. And rather than take my word and my presentation slides for it, I'd love for Alexis to explain what was her logic of coming and applying for a program, and what was her overall experience, and where is it that this program or this approach helped her in taking her career forward. So I'm going to allow Alexis to share a couple of her thoughts before we get into the questions and answers. Alexis, all over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, I hope you can all hear me. Thank you, Ajinka. That was a good presentation. So yeah, my name is Alexis Osei-Bonsu. I'm a Ghanaian, as you mentioned. So I have benefited from capital placement. So the thing is that I had the opportunity to study in the United Kingdom, to study a master's degree a couple of years ago. And during my master's, obviously, I wasn't looking to just go do a master's and not gain any relevance from that study. So one of the key things that I was looking to get out of my master's was to get relevant work experience. But unfortunately, during the first year of my master's, I tried to apply by myself on my own, and I wasn't getting any good responses. So I did approach my university career services, who assisted me and got in contact with Capital Placement. At the time, Capital Placement was on the university careers page, where they were able to help international students like myself land corporate jobs. So even before I got into contact with Capital Placement, like I said, all the jobs I was applying for as a young Ghanaian girl in the United Kingdom, trying to find my way in the corporate market, I wasn't getting there because there were a lot of challenges. The first thing is that the UK job market is very competitive. As someone who's coming from Ghana, as compared to someone who's already in the United Kingdom or like a British native, when both of us are to apply, and that's the instance I had for the past about 12 months during my master's, obviously, they're going to pick someone who is aligned with the organizational culture of the United Kingdom, as compared to me, who's coming from an African background, who doesn't understand how the corporate work works in the United Kingdom. So that was the challenge that I had to face. And sadly enough, I didn't get into a corporate job for about 12 months. The only first job that I landed in the United Kingdom during my master's was a field sales advisor. And that's basically walking up to people in the streets, either in the cold or either in the summer, telling them that, hey, I want you to sign up for this. Can you sign up and then come over to this place to get like more information? And that's a really menial job, and that's not what I was looking to get. So when I approached my university career services with what I was going through in terms of trying to land a corporate job, because imagine this, you're doing a master's, you've paid enough money to do a master's, and then after your master's, you're not getting any corporate jobs, you're not able to apply your experiences. What I studied was international business management, so I was looking for something aligned to that, specifically consultancy. So then Capital Placement came in through my Kingston. I studied at Kingston University. So Kingston University Careers linked me up with Capital Placement. And so I went over, I had a meeting with Capital Placement, went over, and the thing that Capital Placement did for me that really helped me is that, first of all, they had to assess me. One thing with Capital Placement is that they don't just take any candidate who comes up to say, hey, I want to get a corporate job. You need to at least know why you're getting into that corporate job, know what you're going to get into that, know what you're going to get out of that corporate job, and know what you want to use what you get out of that corporate job to do in the future. So I had an assessment with Capital Placement, and of course I passed that assessment, and then I went on to the next step, which was the consultants there helping me find an internship. So this took quite some time, because obviously when you apply to Capital Placement, it takes 6 to 8 weeks for Capital Placement to help you find an internship. But I wasn't left alone. From that 6 to 8 weeks time, I was mentored, and then I was coached on how to prepare for my interview with potential employers. So I did land an internship, but first of all, it wasn't just any internship. They gave me like about 3 options. So it was a management consultancy firm that I did my very first internship with Capital Placement with. So I had about 3 interviews. Of course, going into an interview, as again, a young Ghanaian girl, you would be scared, but I was prepped by their career coaching services and by their mentors. And then I was able to pass my interview. When I did pass my interview, I had an in-person internship for 3 months with Capital Placement. This was because I was already based in UK studying a master's, and the best one was an in-person internship. And they were able to bridge that gap between me trying to get into the corporate market as an ethnic minority, I would say, because in the UK, there's ethnic minorities, there's Asian, Blacks, and sometimes it's quite difficult, as I mentioned, to get into the corporate world. So I successfully did that internship for 3 months. And of course, as Ajinka mentioned, when you're trying to get an internship with Capital Placement, you have to pay for their services. Their services are valuable because they're going to edit your CV to one that's like first class, that is going to be presentable to employers. Secondly, you're going to be prepped. I had a lot of fear going into the UK alone, trying to get into the corporate world, because I was really, really ambitious. But they guided me, they coached me, prepped me I was able to do 3 interviews. I passed all 3 interviews, selected the organization that I wanted to be in based on the terms and conditions. I paid for their services. And the good thing is my internship was paid. So even though I paid to get that internship, whatever I paid, I got it back in the first month of working because it was a win-win. I didn't lose anything. So I paid for the service, and for me, I was paid during my internship. And the good thing is you're paid above the UK minimum wage. You're not paid anything less than that. And that's a good thing about working with Capital Placement. So after that 3 months of internship, I was able to break through the UK corporate market, and with references from the company that I worked with, I was able to work with one of UK's leading IT companies as well. It's called MindLink as well. And that gave me relevant work experience. I got references from the company that I worked with Capital Placement with. I got references with the next company that I worked with. And that's also helped me to continue to study my doctorate, because when you're studying a doctorate, a PhD, you need to have relevant work experience. You need to have references from good companies, and that PhD was also done in the United Kingdom. So that's basically what I want to tell everyone that's on this platform, that I know many of you have studied or are looking to study outside Ghana, or even still studying in Ghana. But one thing is that we all need to gain that international exposure. Here in Ghana, you can work with different companies, you can gain exposure, that's fine. But when you're able to broaden your scope and get international exposure, either UK, USA, or Singapore, or in my case, UK, it helps you to build a lot of networks as well. And it helps you to understand the organizational culture of other countries. And even if you do want to get retained working with a UK company as well through Capital Placement, it all depends on your outputs, and you're able to do that. And if you're able to do that, you can also get retained when you go in for an in-person internship. And I just want to add to what Ajinka said, that they do support you with your visa sponsorship because they're tier 2A rated. So in case you would love to maybe travel to London to gain an in-person experience, Capital Placement supports you all through the way to do that as well. And then if you're looking to also stay back after your internship, their career services and mentorships are A-star, and it really helps. So yes, that is my little experience that I want to share with you all today, that I received Capital Placement. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Alexis. I can see that we've got a couple of questions on the chat, as well as Kwame's put his hand up. Just before we get to the question and answers, I just have one broad line, top of the line message that I want to give, and we make sure we give this every time. The purpose of doing our sessions, or for talking about internships and the challenges, is not to instill any kind of a fear, or make it a big deal that internships are almost impossible and that you cannot do it on your own. No, we're not promoting that idea, and neither am I concluding that it is only Capital Placement as the silver bullet that's going to help with internships. Not at all. We are absolutely encouraging of anybody who wishes to try and do their internship search on their own. Sometimes we get candidates on the calls, and maybe we don't agree to bring them on our program, but at least through that mentorship call we can give them through the advice about which industries work or don't work. So please, it is not to be misunderstood that we are the only and ultimate way. The best example that I can give you as an analogy is, think of traveling from point A to point B. You have multiple opportunities. You have some, you can walk, you can take a public transport, you can take a private car. Sometimes if it's a longer distance, you can have an air travel as well. And what you're paying for effectively is the convenience and the speed. So we always put Capital Placement, or the way we work, as that analogy, where we're getting you from point A to point B that much faster, so that you have a certainty that, okay, now I have just 8 weeks that I've given to this company that is going to find me an internship. And there are candidates who've maybe waited for months and they've not had any chance, but here's us coming along, and maybe we can speed things up. So I'm going to go into the Q&A setting this tone that it is not at all our intention to discourage anybody from trying to find internships on their own. And that's not what we're in the business of, to try and upsell that we are the best and the only. No, we are on your team. We started off, our co-founders started off with the journey themselves, and we've continued that ethos since. And with this messaging, I'm going to pick up the questions. But before that, I think because Kwame has his hand up, maybe I'll give Kwame a chance. Please go ahead, Kwame.
Okay, before Kwame comes in, I would want to come in, and then I will now give the floor to you back so that you take the questions. So just give me a few moments. I want to really thank you and Alexis for that insightful and eye-opening presentation. And I'm pretty sure that we've all picked up some valuable tips on how to position ourselves for global opportunities. And we'll be moving right into the Q&A segment soon, but just as a quick reminder, if you are here to share your questions, kindly drop it in the chat box, or you could also send it to us via WhatsApp to 0597 392 753, 0597 392 753. And so thank you all for those who have already started putting in your questions in the chat box. Please keep them coming in. Before we move into the Q&A segment, I'd like to take a moment to encourage everyone here to take advantage of the exciting opportunities available through our upcoming training cohort at the Center for Business Analysis. These programs do not only build your professional competence, but also gives you access to foreign internship placements, just like the ones we have discussed today. And so let me do a little marketing. Our upcoming cohort for cybersecurity is beginning tomorrow, 11th October, and though it's starting soon, we still have a few seats available, and so it is not too late to join. Kindly visit our website, centerforanalytics.com, click on the apply button and book your seats now. Also, to let you know that our business data analytics cohort starts on the 6th of December, followed by our business analysis certification program, which also starts on the 13th of December 2025. All our programs run on weekends with both in-person and online learning options available for your convenience. And all the registration fee for all our courses is 200 cedis. And to register, you simply visit our website, centerforanalytics.com, click on the apply button, and then you are good to go. We look forward to having you on board. Also, to let you know that we are inviting all of you here to join us for our 2025 Business Analysis Summit happening on the Friday, 31st of October at the Palms by Eagles Hotel, formerly known as Holiday Inn Hotel, Airport City, Accra, and the start time is 9 a.m. And so this summit will bring together over 300 professionals from across industries to explore how business analysis, business data analytics, and cybersecurity analysis are shaping the future of strategy, innovation, and digital transformation. By attending this summit, you will gain valuable insights from top industry experts and thought leaders. You also gain exposure to real-world cases studies and also success stories. You also gain powerful networking opportunities with business analysis professionals, cybersecurity professionals, and also data analytics professionals. Participation is open for at an affordable rate of 1,200 cedis. And so please don't miss this opportunity to connect, learn, and grow in your career. For further inquiries and registration, kindly call 0248-286114, 0248-286114. We look forward to seeing you at the summit. Okay, so I think Ajincha can take over and then take the questions. If you would want me to also read it out for you, that is fine. But if you can take that, then I'll leave you to start taking the questions, please. Thank you.
Sure. Should we go to Kwame first before we go into the chat?
Yeah, you can go to Kwame first since he has his hand raised.
Yes.
Good afternoon, all. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you.
Right, thanks. One, do you do job placement for companies that want to relocate to Africa? And
No.
then the second one, and then what type of visa do you help the applicants to get? What type of visa is it?
Understood. Okay, so Kwame, thank you for asking the question. I'm sure some of you also might be having the question on your minds. The question was, and repeat for everyone's benefit, is do we do assistance with job placements? And the answer to that is no. We strictly and only work for internship opportunities. What we encourage and we always discuss with the companies is if they're open to having extensions on the internship or conversions to full-time jobs. However, like I said, because we take that step back once a contract is signed between a company and a candidate, it is at the discretion of the company as well as economic environment if they want to extend it. What I mean to say is that we don't have any strings or conditions attached to any company for taking anything post an internship. But we always encourage candidates to have these questions with their managers, with the hiring staff, with the HR teams, and we therefore sometimes, based on performance, have seen cases where the companies have taken a decision after having somebody for 12 weeks, to extend it, or for maybe even giving them a full-time opportunity. So we primarily are only working in the internships part. When it comes to the visas, therefore, both the visas for either when you're coming into London or when you're going into Singapore are specific internship visas. And I can see that that's one of the questions as well. Number 4, what are the legal and immigration challenges? There are no legal and immigration challenges because we do not give anybody a wrong visa, or we do not work on the wrong paperwork. What I mean is somebody coming in on a tourist visa to London or the UK and then actually working and having any kind of a miscommunication or a disconnection there. No, whatever visa is issued from the UK, the system, it works as follows. When somebody gets an internship, they get a certificate of sponsorship from any company that is giving the internship. That certificate of sponsorship is issued by the UK government on the back of the offer or the contract that is signed between the intern and the company. So it's very specific. And once that letter or certificate of sponsorship is issued by the UK government, that is given to the candidate, who then applies in his local embassy to say, here's my internship offer, here is the certificate of sponsorship, so my paperwork from the UK is all clear, therefore now please grant me the visa to go and do this internship. And the visa you're granted is also, like I said, the government authorized exchange program, GAE tier 5 visa, which is for internship purposes. So nowhere do we do any kind of a visa manipulation where we are encouraging or bringing people or helping them with tourist or different types of visas and coming in an internship. It's the similar logic for Singapore as well, just for completeness. In Singapore, it's called a work holiday pass, and it's a specific internship visa that's given out to candidates. Of course, there are those restrictions, like I said, in terms of where you have studied. However, if you match those criteria, that visa too is not a tourist visa, is not a business visa, is not a medical visa, it's not a visa on arrival. No, it is a specific internship visa. So therefore, we have till date never ever either encouraged or faced any legal or immigration challenges when we have got foreign students coming into the UK or we're sending them to the to Singapore. I hope that answers your questions. Yes, Linda, I'm going to come to the other questions that you have before you quickly. So in the interest of time, what are the job opportunities usually posted for interested candidates, where they are? So we don't have a specific job board where you have the opportunity, simply because that won't solve the purpose. Job boards, typically the job opportunities will get full and will get filled within no amount of time. So it is not something that we work on a basis of having the jobs there. Rather, we have a candidate-led approach. Once we get a candidate and their interest for specific industries within our network, we either have those opportunities that we're aware of, where it might be an existing employer speaking to who's given us a request that if you find somebody in data science, can you please let me know, we're looking for interns in the next 3 months time. And we know, therefore, this is on our books and we can actually make that connection. Or it could be other way around, where we're looking for a specific company which may not be within our network, but we are sort of, going through what we do, and we have a dedicated placement team for it that then tries to find a suitable and matching internship. So we go with an intern first approach, we go with a candidate first approach, and most of the time the opportunities that we are looking at opportunities that are not publicly available. Not that it doesn't make sense, because those opportunities would get full, but because of the unique way that we're structured, like Alexis mentioned, in terms of finding her the internship with a management consulting company, that wouldn't maybe have been something that's publicly available, but through our networks is something that we are able to make that connection and have the introduction made. That's to one of the questions. If an intern decides no longer interested in a job opportunity, will you find a replacement? This is an interesting one, and I can understand what it comes down to, but like with any contract, the contract is between the company and the intern. Now, if we've signed everything, you've started an internship, and for whatever reason, if it is in the prerogative of our side where we missed on our due diligence and the company shuts down, or the company is not in a position to continue the internship for reasons which is not the fault of the candidate at all, yes, in those exigent circumstances, we understand and we would come in and find another internship. However, if it is a work performance aspect, if it is something that's got to do with any normal event, it is not something that would maybe qualify for us to find a replacement. We do have mediations, and this happens in 0.1% or maybe even lesser than that. I'd say exceptional cases where maybe there has been, an issue raised up. We do mediate. We do try and understand where the disagreements are, or where was it that there is a little bit of a miscommunication. And oftentimes, this intervention or these conversations do make things easier, and the internship continues because both the company and the intern eventually are interested in having a productive internship. So it is not a case where somebody can come in, and at the drop of a hat, okay, after working for 2 weeks, say, I don't like this internship, I want to try something else. It wouldn't work that way. It's not the most feasible way to do it. And believe you me, when we go through these processes, you are, or any candidate is subject to interviews by the company itself. Like Alexis mentioned, 3 rounds of interview with the company. So even when you give the application to us, we're not going to come back to you with a paper to say, sign this, yes or no. Do you want this internship or no? No, we are probably going to come back to you with an opportunity for an introduction to the company or with an interview with the company. And you have then enough number of avenues available to have that interaction, to speak to the hiring managers or to speak to the HR, to then understand, okay, whether you want to take that up or not. We've had situations where somebody has got an offer, and maybe they've gotten another offer, and maybe they make a choice and choose one of them to go to, because eventually it's the choice of the candidate. There's nothing that we gain or lose from that, eventual offer point of view. So that's on the second part. And the last one is for Alexis. I'll before bringing her in, is there anything else, Linda, or have I covered your question so far?
Yes, thank you. You've covered all my questions, but I also have a question, which was the reason why I raised my hand. It's about visas, right? Yeah. So personally, I experienced going through the visa process for UK. With all the documents, because it was more work related, more of a project that I was going to do, with all the papers that backed my visa process. I was still rejected, right? So could you please clarify the information in regards to visas with this particular internship opportunity? Is visas guaranteed or is not, based on my personal experience? Thank you.
Sure. Linda, I understand, I understand where you're coming from. And with this current environment where there is a little bit of a scrutiny happening on every applications coming into, globally, and especially with, the presidency in the US and having a lot of the visa, conversation starting there, your apprehensions are valid. But whilst we don't offer a guarantee for the visa, what I'm explaining is it's akin to when you're coming to the UK, there are two ways essentially you apply for a visa. One is when you're applying as a tourist or when you're coming in for a business conference, the onus on your paperwork is for the first hand with any candidate making the application, and you're going to the embassy to say, this is what I want to come to the UK for, and this is what I'm going to do, and you're trying to make a case for it. Whereas when you are coming here with a certificate of sponsorship, the process works slightly reverse, where essentially either it's a university. So when you're coming in for a university course, the university speaks to the Home Office in the UK. They open your file here, they do the check here, and then you're issued a certificate of sponsorship. This COS letter, as it is called, is issued by the Home Office, not the company, not the university, and it has a unique number and a file which is created in the UK. So for the Home Office in the UK to issue that certificate, they would go through background checks with the company to understand, okay, who is this intern, what is the contract, who is the company, and only when they're satisfied that this looks like a legitimate internship opportunity, we are going to issue this. And they are all specified and tied to your internship. So when you then take this certificate and go to the embassy, I can tell you we've not had any visa rejections so far, because it is in this manner, because it's backed up by this process where it's verified or ratified from the UK. Now, however, if on personal aspects or for lack of, for example, all of this is in place, but maybe the reason why the UK embassy in that particular country feels on anyone's personal background or other checks, which are not related to the contract or the certificate of sponsorship, they may be background, they may be finance related. If there are other reasons why the visa is rejected, that's something that's out of our purview, the company's purview, or even the Home Office here, because the Home Office here is only looking at the internship contract. However, therefore, we don't guarantee that, but we've not had any rejection on it. And the process goes as follows, like I had explained. So it is a much more robust route, because you are coming in with very specific paperwork rather than coming in open-ended with only your word to take for, oh yes, here's me and here's this company and I'm getting this internship. The visa officer may say, okay, how do I believe what it is? And that gets answered by having the certificate of sponsorship come to them through the UK Home Office itself. Slightly longer answer, but you can Google it and you can check it as well, that how this process works.
Yeah, sure. That clarifies my question. Thank you.
I know where, it's Friday morning for everybody, and we've covered a very lengthy and detailed presentation. I don't want to overstep and go into anybody else's time. I'm just going to wrap up, and I'm sure you can have more questions sent to the CBA team, and I'm happy then we can either have a written response, or we can get on a follow-up call, or we can find a way to resolve it. But eventually I want to wrap up to say that what Na mentioned about the event that they are holding on the 31st of October and these initiatives that they're taking, I think they're doing a wonderful job of equipping and bridging also the gap between university education or formal education and what the working world requires. And really our conversation started there about what are the right skills that we can give and how can we further enhance those skills. I really appreciate Team CBA's effort and their thought process, where they reached out to us to say, we're working to give candidates the next level of business education, or to bridge the gap between what the industry wants and what universities are preparing for. And we also want to add meaningful work experience or at least internships where they get an opportunity to test what we're teaching them in a real world, preferably international work experience, so that it's a more holistic experience of upskilling and building their skill set. And that was the basis of this conversation. You might be wondering what has got CBA and capital placement together, and it was essentially this requirement of how can CBA give the best to their students in terms of not just the theoretical knowledge and workshops and all of the courses they're doing, but in terms of then topping it with, okay, is there a pathway? Is there any kind of solution that we can also further give someone to go into an internship opportunity in an international setup? And we really aligned on that purpose. And therefore, I'm really, really happy for this partnership to work with CBA and to work with such a motivated and thought-driven organization. So I do encourage all of you to please look at the CBA event as well as the courses that we have. And for maybe if some of you sign up for those courses, then looking to enhance that learning into practical work experience through the internships, which could come from any of our programs. I hand it over back to Na. Thank you so much. You all have been one of the better audiences I've had in terms of being so patient and giving very structured questions. Thank you so much for listening to my, explanation about the company as well as Alexis's story. I'm happy that I got a chance to do this, and I'm giving it back to Na.
Okay, thank you very much, Ajincha, for such a rich and insightful session. And thank you to everyone who asked questions, shared comments, and all that. Thank you very much. I believe everyone here has gained valuable knowledge about and practical guidance on how to approach and secure international internship opportunities. Okay, to our participants, thank you very much for joining and engaging so actively. Remember, your journey doesn't end here. What we have learned today is just a stepping stone towards a world of experience that can shape your career and broaden your professional scope. Okay, at the Center for Business Analysis, we encourage you to stay curious, stay proactive, and keep seeking opportunities that pushes you beyond borders. And so on behalf of the Center for Business Analysis, we want to extend our deepest appreciation to Ajincha and the team and his team, Alexis and the rest at Capital Placement, and to you all who made time to be part of this impactful discussion. Thank you once again for joining us for this insightful session, and we look forward to welcoming many of you to our next training cohorts. Please don't forget to visit our website, centerforanalytics.com, and register for any of our courses by clicking on the apply button to register. Until then, we would want you to know that you are to keep learning, keep growing, and continue taking your career beyond borders. Thank you very much for staying with us, and it's bye for now. Thank you very much.